is unconscious. You go on doing things not knowing why. You go on doing things you cannot do if you were even a little conscious. What we are doing with our life is just sleeping through it. Consciousness has to be evolved. The more consciousness you have, the energy starts flowing upwards on its own accord. Consciousness is the clue, the key, the master key. Lust becomes love through consciousness. So love cannot be an unconscious thing. When Baals say love is the door, they don't mean the love that you call love. Your love is as unconscious as anything else. If it is unconscious, that's why the expression we say, falling in love. Yes, it is a falling in. The love Baals are talking is rising in love, not falling in. It is not a fall, it is a rise. So don't misunderstand that your love is what Baals are talking about. Your love is just a name for the lust, a good name, a beautiful, nice name. And beware of nice words because they can be very deceptive. If you label lust as love, you will be deceived by your own labeling. Lust is when you are unconscious. You see a woman or a man and you fall in love. And you don't know why. Sometimes even against yourself. In spite of yourself. People come and say to me, what we can do. We are helpless. Love has happened. This love is not the love of the Baal. This is lust. What Baal calls lust is this. Unconscious love is lust. Then it flows downwards. Then it moves through the sex center into the world again. Upward lust is love. But then it is conscious. Consciousness is the staircase. Step by step you become more and more conscious. Whatsoever you do it with full consciousness. Even walking, eating, going to bed, talking, listening. Small things of life, but you do with consciousness. And when you are in love with full consciousness. It is not against yourself. It is not that you are possessed. It is not that you are a victim. It is not that you are being pulled by somebody like a magnet. No. You are moving on your own. The Baal's love is very cool. It has the coolness of awareness. Your love is very hot. It has the fever of unconsciousness. We are functioning through Kunda buffer. This mechanism exists just at the center of sex. People who are living through Kunda buffer can live two sorts of lives, one of indulgence and another of repression. But both are the same. Ordinarily, the people who live a life of repression are thought to be saints. That's simply foolish. They are the same people in a different garb. People who live a life of indulgence are as unconscious as the people who live the life of repression. In fact, the more the kunda buffer is strong, the more people become repressive because they want to control it. They are afraid. They are afraid because they are losing the ego control over their sex desire. They try to control it, but their control is like forcing the sex desire deep into the unconscious. They sit on top of it. They have to continuously fight with it. And remember, if you have to fight with something, you can never leave it and you can never go beyond it. To fight with it, you have to remain on the same level. To fight with it, you have to remain sitting on top of it. 24 hours. There is no holiday. You leave it even for a single moment and it is again there, forcing you towards indulgence. Indulgence and depression are the two faces of the same type of person. In your monasteries, you will find the depressive type. In the world, you will find the indulgent type. The playboy and the so-called saint may look opposite to each other, but they are complementary. Their obsession is the same. Their fixation is the same. Their neurosis is the same. Kunda buffer has to be melted down. What to do? One small technique will be of tremendous help. Whenever you feel sex desire arising, there are three possibilities. One, indulge in it. Ordinary. Everybody is doing that. Second, repress it. Force it down so it goes beyond your consciousness into the darkness of the unconscious. Throw it into the basement of your life. That's what your so-called extraordinary people are doing. Mahatmas, saints, monks, but both are against nature. Both are against the inner science of transformation. The third, a very rare minority ever tries it, and that is when the sex desire arises. Close your eyes. It is a very valuable moment. Desire arising is energy arising. It is like the sun rising in the morning. Close your eyes. This is the moment to be meditative. Move downwards to the sex center, where you are feeling the thrill, the vibration, the kick. Move there and just be a silent onlooker. Witness it. Don't condemn it. The moment you condemn, you are gone far away from it. And don't enjoy it. Because the moment you enjoy, you are unconscious. Just be alert, watchful, like a lamp burning in a dark night. You just take your consciousness there, just unflickering, unwavering. You see what is happening at the sex center. What is this energy? Don't call names, because all words have become contaminated. Even if you say it is sex, immediately you have started condemning it. The very word has become condemnatory. If you belong to the new generation, then the very word has become something sacred. But the word is always loaded with emotion. Any word that is loaded with emotion becomes a barrier on the path of awareness. You just don't call it anything. Just watch the fact that energy is arising near the sex center. There is a thrill. Watch it. And watching it, you will feel a totally new quality of energy. Watching it, you will see it is rising upwards. It is finding a path inside you. And the moment it starts rising upwards, you will feel a coolness falling on you, a silence surrounding you, a grace, a beatitude, a benediction, a blessing all around you. It is no more like a thorn, painful. It no more hurts. It is very soothing like a balm. And the more you remain aware, the more higher it will go. If it can come up to the heart, which is not very difficult, but not very difficult. If you remain alert, you will see it has come to the heart. When it comes to the heart, you will know for the first time what love is. Up to now, you have been carrying a counterfeit in the name of love. When the energy comes to the heart chakra, then it is transformed into love. Once it is transformed into love, once you have felt it, once it has penetrated in you, your whole being will feel purified. You will feel virgin. You will feel so pure, so holy, that you cannot think that heaven is anywhere else. You will know it is within me, within my heart. And heaven will become a truth. It will not be theology then. It will become almost geography. You will know exactly where it is. And God will no more be a hypothesis. In that purity, in that silence, in that fulfillment of love, you will see God is. Not as a theory, but as a self-evident truth. Not as an argument, not as a proof, not as a conclusion, not as a syllogism. But simply it is there. There is no way to deny it. It is so much there that you can deny yourself, but you cannot deny God. You yourself look so faint before the reality of God that you can say, I may not be, but He is. That will be the first glimpse. Energy can rise still higher. When it comes at the center of the throat, it becomes prayer. People have been doing prayers, but they don't know what prayer is, because prayer is the most subtle and refined form of love. If you have not moved through the heart center, you cannot go to prayer. There is no way. One has to go via the heart. Because of the throat center, because it exists at the throat center and happens at the throat center, people have started making rituals. People have made prayers. They assert, they say something. But just by using the throat center and saying something to God, you are not doing prayer. Prayer is concerned with the throat center, but not as verbalization. It is an experience at that center. And the experience is exactly like when a child sucks for the first time at his mother's breast. It is not that you say something, but you receive something. Prayer is not saying something to God, but receiving something from God. God becomes the mother's breast. Prayer is a nourishment. Yes, it exists and happens at the throat center, because throat center is the center to receive. Throat center is the first center which starts functioning, because the child has to suck air. That happens through the throat center. And then he has to suck milk. That happens through the throat center. Prayer is just like sucking air, vitality, or sucking milk at the breast of your mother. Hence Jesus says, unless you become like small babes, you will not enter into my kingdom of God. He is talking about the throat center. But Christians have completely lost track of it. He is saying in a symbolic way that again become a babe. Again, start sucking from the throat center the energy that life is. Now, of course, the breast is invisible and the milk is invisible. But have you watched a man in prayer? How diffused with grace he looks. How peaceful. How at home. How relaxed. Watch a small babe sucking milk has fallen asleep. Still the nipple of the breast in his mouth, resting on his mother's breast, has fallen asleep. Watch the face of the child. That is the face of the saint also when he arrives at the throat center and prayer arises. Prayer is not something that you do with God. Prayer is something that you allow God to do with you. Prayer is receptive. It is not an action on your part. It is a passive welcome. Prayer is not saying something to God. On the contrary, it is listening to God. It is being ready to receive His gift. It is very difficult to receive His gift because you have your own ideas. You have your own plans. You go on telling Him, showing Him the right path, that do this, then I will be happy. We have the adage that man proposes and God disposes. This is simple stupidity, sheer stupidity. Just the other way round is the case. God proposes and man goes on disposing. Because you have your own plans. You never listen to Him. You think you are wiser than Him. You go on advising Him, do this, don't do that. That's what you do in your prayer. A real prayer has nothing to suggest to God except a deep gratitude, thankfulness. It simply accepts whatsoever God is pouring. prayer is receiving the gift, but it happens at the throat center. It is the highest form of love. And when you go still higher, then at the seventh center, Sahasrara, happens Samadhi, the ultimate ecstasy, where the seeker is lost into the sought, where you are no more yourself, where God and you lose boundaries and become one. Overlapping starts at the throat center. Boundaries become dim, not very clear cut. But still, you exist separately, you have a separate center and God has a separate center. In prayer, you are two meeting, overlapping. In some way, peripheries merging into each other. But still, centers are different. The higher you go, the center comes closer and closer. At the Sahasrara, the seventh chakra, your centers become one. Then there is only one center. That's what when Jesus says, not I, but my Father lives in me. Now, the seeker and the sought are not two. The ultimate meeting has happened. The ultimate love has flowered, has come to fruition and fulfillment. If you become aware and a witness when the sex center is throbbing with energy, vibrating, streaming, without choosing indulgence or repression, if you can remain just in the middle, a watcher, an observer, this tremendous transformation happens on its own. So next time you feel full of passion, don't move in these two easily available alternatives, indulgence and repression. Just remain in the middle, and you are at a point where the door can open. It always opens in the middle. Buddha used to call his path the middle path, Majjhim Nikaya, because he said everywhere excess is prohibited. Always choose the middle. The exact middle is the point beyond. If you can find between two opposites, two rivals, the exact middle ground, you have gone beyond them. You have reached a transcendence. The transcendence opens just in the middle. The middle is the beyond. You are watching, stunning, like a witness at the sex center. Energy moves upwards. Kunda buffer starts melting and Kundalini starts functioning. Kundalini is the right path. Kunda buffer, the wrong path. And Kunda buffer is functioning because we have lived for many lives so unconsciously that Kundalini cannot function. Kundalini needs the fuel of consciousness. If that gas is missing, Kundalini cannot function. Kunda buffer functions with unconsciousness. So it depends on you. If you go on supplying unconsciousness, Kunda buffer will go on functioning. If you supply consciousness, suddenly your life turns you start moving towards the interior of your being. A deep interiority arises. A man who was extremely successful with mule teams was asked how he managed the stubborn creatures. Well, explained the man, when they won't move, I pick up a handful of soil and put it in their mouths. Of course they spit it out, but as a rule they start on. Why do you think it has that effect? Asked the person. I'm not sure, but I think it changes the current of their thoughts. If you start witnessing, nobody exactly knows how your energy starts moving, but somehow it happens. Maybe it changes your current of thoughts. It is a great shock. You try. You are angry, you are getting into anger, suddenly become alert. Shake and jerk your body and become alert and see what happens. Suddenly you will see something has slipped out of your hands. You are no more angry. Somehow, anger looks foolish now. Or slap your face when you are getting angry, rather than slapping somebody else's face. That is not going to help. Slap your own face when you are getting angry and see what happens. Suddenly, the mechanism that was going to function in a routine way cannot function. You have shocked it. A consciousness arises if you slap your own face. A consciousness arises which breaks the unconscious pattern. So wherever you want to change, remember, consciousness is the key. Otherwise, we are living almost in a sort of insanity. Few mad people are in the mad houses. The remaining are outside. But it is very difficult to find a sane man. The differences are only of degrees. Have you watched the fact? Have you ever become afraid of it? That the person who has become mad was also just like you few days before. And nobody has ever thought that he will become mad. He is mad. Can't the same happen to you? It is told about William James, the greatest American psychologist, that when he went for the first time to visit a madhouse, he came very sad back home. He had fever. The wife was worried. She said, what has happened? You went, you were perfectly okay. He said, don't talk to me. I am in no mood to talk. He slept under the blankets, remained ill for 2-3 days. Everybody was worried. The doctor said, nothing is wrong. Then he said, what has happened? Seeing many mad people in the madhouse, suddenly a thought occurred to him, the same can happen to me. That gave him the trembling. He was never the same man again. But that made him very alert. Inside your mind, continuous madness exists. And you know it. How can you manage not to know it? But it goes goes on like undercurrent. On the surface you manage well. I have heard a clergyman had occasion to preach to the inmates of an insane hospital. During his sermon, he noticed that one of the patients paid the closest attention, his eyes riveted upon the preacher's face, his body bent eagerly forward. Such interest was most flattering. After the service, the speaker noticed that the man spoke to the superintendent. So as soon as possible, the preacher inquired, "Did not that speak to you about my sermon?" "Yes." "Would you mind telling me what he said?" The superintendent tried to sidestep, but the preacher insisted. "Well," he said at last, "what the man said was, just think, he's out and I'm in. You may be out and somebody may be in, but the difference is not of degrees. Unless you become conscious, you are always on the verge of madness, always boiling, always ready. Any small thing can prove the last straw on the camel. Any small thing, any small incident, and you may cross the boundary. To live unconsciously is not to really live. To become conscious, to move consciously, to be conscious of all that happens in your mind, to be separate from your mind, because consciousness becomes separate. Whenever you watch something, you become separate from that thing. This is the secret. If you watch your thoughts, you become separate from your thoughts. You are no more identified. And when you are not identified, you are not cooperating. And you don't go on giving energy to your thoughts. By and by, they disappear. When the host is not interested, the guests disappear. They don't come so often. Or even if they come, they don't stay so long. Gaps arise. One thought comes, then minutes pass, and another thought does not come. In that gap, you face reality. Then there is no screen between you and reality. Unscreened reality is what God is. The song for today. Those who are dead and yet fully alive and know the flavors and feelings in loving, they will cross the river, gazing at the stream of life and death. They seek integrity. They have no wish for happiness at all, walking against the wind. They kill lust with lust and enter the city of love unattached. Tremendous sutras, tremendously significant sutras. Those who are dead and yet fully alive. How can you be dead and yet fully alive? If you become a witness of your body, then you know you are not the body. And the body is born, and the body is going to die. The moment you know you are not the body, you know you were never born and you will never be dying. So in a sense you become wholly alive, eternally alive, what Jesus calls abundance of life, overflowingly alive. You cannot be exhausted then. Then you are not caused. That you don't have any beginning and you cannot have any end. You are perpetual energy, eternal energy. Then you are wholly alive on one hand, and because you know you are not the body, then the life that you used to think consists in body is no more there. Body is already dead. You use it, you live in it, but you are no more identified with it. Those who are dead and yet fully alive and know the flavors and feelings in loving, they will cross the river. And when you are fully alive and no more attached to the body, no more identified with the body, no more the idea exists in you that I am the body, then love arises. Because the moment you are no more the body, the kunda buffer is broken. Because the kunda buffer can exist only when you are identified with the body. The kunda buffer is a part of the body. Now be careful what I am saying. Be attentive. The kunda buffer is part of the body, and kundalini is not part of the body. Kundalini is part of you. It is part of your consciousness. So people, there are many, even few doctors have tried to find out where the kundalini exists in the body, and few are foolish enough even to prove that it exists here or there, on this center or that. Kundalini is not part of the physical body at all. And Gurdjieff was right that if people are trying